Hello, my name is Haocong Cheng. I am from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I will be presenting our paper, Narratives plus Diagrams, an integrated approach for externalizing and sharing people's causal beliefs. Causal knowledge and beliefs play a central role in people's reasoning, learning, and decision-making. With causal knowledge, people and algorithms are able to perform counterfactual reasoning, predict outcomes of actions more reliably, and make better decisions. However, how to collect causal knowledge or causal beliefs remains an open question. Externalizing causal knowledge from data has been challenging due to technical constraints and the complex nature of causal relationships. Prior work shows that causal diagrams could help knowledge transfer and learning, and narratives are important in perspective taking. However, little is known about how the integration of causal diagrams and narratives could help people, including those who have no data analysis backgrounds, to externalize and share causal beliefs. In this work, we focus on advancing knowledge of the practices and effects of externalizing and sharing causal beliefs across people, both of which are necessary steps for collaborative causal reasoning. We asked two research questions in this work. RQ1, how does the integration of narratives and causal diagrams promote our understanding of people's externalization of causal beliefs? We analyzed the characteristics of the externalized causal beliefs and their differences across participants. RQ2, what are the effects of reviewing others' causal beliefs in the integrated representation of people's causal reasoning? We analyzed how participants utilize others' beliefs and change their own diagrams or narratives. We designed and built a system, Causal Idea, which allows people to construct a causal diagram and provide explanatory narratives for each causal relationship they hypothesize. They can also review others' causal models to find unconsidered relationships and modify their own diagrams. Here is the user interface of Causal Idea. Variables with different colors are related to different stakeholders. An arrow connecting two variables represents a causal relationship from one to another in the direction of the arrow. Users are able to write explanations and examples of each relationship they added using a text box on the right. They are also able to assign the strength of each relationship using the slider below text box. When clicking on the Inspire Me button on top left, a prompt with machine-generated question will be shown to promote users thinking about whether the two randomly selected variables are causally related. If they think so, they can add a relationship to the diagram and provide narratives. If they don't think the relationship exists, they can write the reasons in the provided text box. They can also add new variables that they believed were related to one or more of the existing variables by using the Add a New Variable button on the top left. When reviewing peers' causal models, users can choose between the model they are reviewing through the tab on the top. Each tab will show the causal diagram and narratives from one peer. They are able to review the narratives of each relationship, decide whether they agree with the peer, and leave comments to each narrative. While reviewing the peers' causal models, they are able to compare to and modify their own causal diagrams, either by adding or removing arrows, or change the narratives or strength of a relationship. To answer the research questions, we developed a data schema with 7 variables for the participant to reason with the system, including variable names, types, and meta descriptions. We chose to use data schema instead of showing an actual dataset because our focus is on people's existing causal beliefs instead of how they identify causal relationships from data patterns. To generate a realistic data schema, we adapted it from a real data set that was generated from a smartphone safety app, which provides two-way communication between individuals and security teams. Reasoning about this data schema does not require specific domain expertise, and this dataset contains many possible causal relationships that the data itself cannot explain. We conducted a user study with 20 participants to evaluate the effects of the tool on how users reason and describe their knowledge about possible causal relations in a reasoning scenario. As our intended users are members of the general public, we did not require our participants to have statistics knowledge or any expertise or familiarity with causal inference. After tutorial and practice, in task 1, we asked participants to draw all the causal relationships on the reasoning scenario that they believe exists based on their prior experience and knowledge, until they felt they had captured all the relationships of interest. In task 2, participants review the peers' causal diagrams and modify their own diagrams if desired. They were shown the same pre-selected peers' causal diagrams. Participants were then interviewed for us to learn more about their experiences with the tool. After the studies, we analyzed the causal diagrams, the narratives, the interview transcripts, and the action logs. By analyzing the narratives, we found that 96% of the relevant narratives provided either examples or explanations or both to a relationship. Through the narratives, users were able to externalize local or relevant knowledge. For example, in this quote, the subject mentioned a local event in March to explain why there might be more noise complaints. Therefore, people out of this community, even if they are data experts, may not pick up this data pattern or understand it before acquiring this knowledge. Furthermore, the integrated system allowed us to capture common and rarely perceived causal relationships. The heatmap shows how many participants generated an arrow from one variable to another in task 1. Through our system, one can easily find what causal relationships are more commonly perceived. For example, in our scenario, the relationship from text length to replied is the highest perceived one. While analyzing the aggregated results from causal diagrams, narratives could be used to understand how two variables are related and reveal alternative hypotheses for the same causal relationship. For example, we observed both positive correlations and negative correlations hypothesized by participants for the same causal relationship. The reason can also differ even if participants hypothesize the same correlation direction. For RQ2, after reviewing and utilizing others' causal models, we observed that the average number of arrows included in a causal diagram increased by 2.8. Adding an arrow is also the most common modification to participants' causal diagrams. 86% of the arrows added were also found in peers' diagrams, which indicates that participants could think of new or missed causal relationships after reviewing peers' causal models. During the interview, participants expressed that reviewing others' narratives assisted their decision to modify causal diagrams. If they agree with peers' rationale after reading narratives, they tend to add that arrow to their own diagram. However, agreeing with a peer's narrative alone did not always result in adding that relationship to the participant's own diagram. They also consider relationship strength or importance when adding the arrows. They may also come up with their own rationales if they do not agree with the rationale from peers, but agree that the relationship exists between two variables. Our results suggest that causal diagrams alone are not enough to fully understand or utilize people's causal knowledge and beliefs. While diagrams are shown beneficial in our study, narratives are critical for people to understand others' causal beliefs and for system designers to extract rich and detailed causal beliefs from a group of people. Therefore, we suggest that future causal belief externalization and sharing tools should adopt the integrated approach of narratives and diagrams, which will enable many collaborative reasoning applications. Our study also shows that the integration of causal diagrams and narratives is effective when interpreting others' causal beliefs, as narratives play a critical role for people to understand why others believe a causal relationship might exist. Future designs may provide visualization of aggregated causal beliefs from a large number of users' causal diagrams, which can enable users to digest and utilize a group's causal beliefs efficiently. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions regarding this research work, please contact us.